Okay, YouTubers, this is The Angry Prepper. So today's video, we're going to talk about the Titan sub that didn't make it after exploring the Titanic. So guys, I'm doing this video only because there's a lot of conspiracy theory going around why, the sub imploded and how come the Navy held on to the information and all other shit. So let me start out by saying that I'm not a sub expert, a deep sea diver, any of that shit. I do know a lot on the subject only because I've watched documentaries on James Cameron. You listen to this basic shit in school when you're a kid. So, and I've always been interested in free diving and deep sea diving, right? Free diving are the guys that don't use tanks. They fucking see how far they can go in depth and then come back up and hold their breath in the whole 9 yards. And then you got deep sea exploration where they use these little submersible subs to go down deep. All right. So over the years of learning that kind of stuff, you start to get a gist of, how things can go bad and how things can just turn into a nightmare. So obviously, guys, when this was reported, what was it, Sunday, that they went missing, I already knew they were dead. There was no qualms about it. There wasn't a point where I was like, man, maybe they'll make it. Maybe this will be one of those Apollo 13 movies where they'll save them at the last minute. I knew they were dead. At that depth, there's pretty much no recovery, right? That being said, the Navy finds out that they imploded and or exploded according to an audio data that they were listening to. So now, what's unclear about the Navy's top secret technology where they're listening to the ocean and they heard the Titan sub implode, it's unclear if they're sitting there actively listening or they're recording it and then they run it back in case something happens, right? Sort of like a surveillance video, but it's surveillancing sound in the ocean. And initially, the report about this top secret listening device was hundreds of miles away, or miles away, from this event happening. So anyway, guys, this is the rub. 5 people die in an implosion in a sub going down to visit the Titanic. Don't know why you're visiting the Titanic. It's not like you can jump out and start scrolling through or swimming through it to see, what's going on. You're seeing through a hole that big, glass probably that thick, right? And it doesn't just sit well with me to be crammed in a fucking tin can. All right, so these people wind up dying. Now, when you're at that depth, you die instantaneously. You can't even blink fast enough. That's how fast you die. So their consciousness is probably still wondering what the fuck just happened. Meanwhile, they're crushed. I mean, they're intertwined with each other the whole 9 yards. It's the worst soup salad you can think of, or soup sandwich you can think of, right? It's just a mess. And it's probably crunched to a ball. I mean, probably about, like the size of this, right? Or maybe a little bigger. But my point is that they didn't feel a thing. So that's probably the only good thing out of this whole nightmare. But the Navy hanging on to the information, that's the conspiracy theory that everybody's starting to throw out there right now. Because they're like, well, why did they hold on to it? Doesn't matter if they held on to it for fucking 7 weeks, 7 hours. The Navy reported it to the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard still has a job to do. Just because they report and go, listen, guys, we think we heard an implosion or an explosion down there, the Coast Guard still has to do the search. You just don't stop a search, guys, when you go, well, listen, guys, they're on the top of Everest. I think they're dead. And then you call off the search. It doesn't work that way. You still got to go up there and get eyes on. You still got to go and make an attempt. Every search and rescue mission, guys, has an attempt made or done, unless something's impeding that operation from happening, like bad weather. So just because the Navy, which told them a day later, and I think what the Navy did is they were recording it, they weren't actively listening, they heard about this event, they play back the tape, they go, shit, all right, we heard something. So the Post, I think that Sunday night or Monday morning, had reported that there was a possibility of an implosion. That was the New York Post. They reported that, and a lot of people the media didn't report it. The New York Post did. I read it, and I was trying to look for that article title, if you will, but they were doing a live thing, like a live news feed. I've never seen them do it before. It was actually the first time they did it. But anyway, my point is, that the New York Post reported it, if I'm not mistaken, Monday morning. This happened Sunday. So that means the Navy reported it to the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard go, well, this is not definitive. We need to see, we need eyes on. So they send the drones down there anyway to search the area. Once they saw the debris, it was confirmed. You don't stop your search and rescue because the Navy told you some shit. You go, well, I think we heard something that sounded like an implosion or explosion. The Coast Guard goes, roger that. We still got to do what we got to do. All right. And they went and did what they did. They found pieces floating in the bottom of the sea. They go, confirmed an implosion. That was it. That's how it works. It's not a big conspiracy theory. I know that the whole Hunter Biden thing and all this other bullshit, they just took the opportunity to use this as a cover-up for all the other bullshit that the Biden administration is doing behind the scenes. One actually has nothing to do with the other. And that the reason why the Navy held on to it, they didn't hold on to it. They reported it right away. The Coast Guard got it. They still have to fucking do a search and rescue. Imagine getting lost in the woods, guy, and someone goes, he's dead. Guys, he's dead. And then someone goes, did you see his body? No, but I have this feeling he might be dead. I heard this boom in the forest. He probably exploded. They have to they have to have eyes on to see if you blew up into a million pieces. Same thing goes for that. And yes, James Cameron said that it was a nightmarish charade. Said it was a nightmarish charade because him and his community knew that they were dead. I'm not in that community. I knew they were dead, and I knew they imploded. And I'm thinking, well, maybe they got too close to the Titanic, cracked the glass, cracked the hull, and then boom, and it went. Also, the other reason why it might have imploded was when you use things like that, I'm under the impression that you can only use it a certain amount of time before you have to get a new one, right? So like when we in the fire department use ropes, if we had to use a life-saving rope to get people out of a bad situation, once that rope was used, once that weight was loaded onto that rope was no good and became training rope. It went out of circulation and went out of service, if you will. With subs reaching that kind of depth, I'm assuming it could only go down so many times before they have to pull it, because keep in mind the ocean is pressuring it and pressing on it every time it goes down. So that could also this could have been a weakened structure over time as well. Keep in mind though, the guy who owned it, the Rush, whatever his name is, the CEO of Ocean Gate, also didn't want to get it certified. He didn't want his company or his subs to be certified. So he went around his rigmarole. He was like, I don't want to deal with that. He actively said in an interview he doesn't want to deal with all of that. He said this should be something simple that people can do. Well, guess what, fucko? Now you're dead. And you took 4 other people with you. So that part is asinine. The fact that he didn't want to get certified. The fact that he didn't want to test his equipment. Even James Cameron. And listen, again, guys, I'm not a fucking sub-tech, but I looked at the shape of that thing and I'm like, it looks a little too big and it looks not like the correct shape that James Cameron used. Listen, if I was to do this deep sub shit, I would only go with James Cameron, because that's the guy who fucking won 30 something fucking times and made it and knows what structure work and what doesn't. When I saw this thing, I'm like, that's why it collapsed. It looks like shit. And James Cameron just said in an interview, he goes, that was a poor design to pick as their sub. There were other designs that are way stronger, just in shape and structure alone, that would have been all right. But again, that's doesn't matter anymore, because these guys are fucking salsa at the bottom of the fucking at the bottom of the ocean. So again, guys, the other side of the coin is, the other side of the thing I heard about this whole mess, if you will, is that there's another CEO or co-CEO, whatever it was. He didn't want this information to get out. I think he was looking to delay a lot of this shit. They delayed the search. I think they delayed the search by a couple of hours, right? They missed their 3 o'clock window, and I think they waited a couple of more hours to initiate the search. If they would have missed their 3 o'clock window, if I'm in charge, I'm like, yo, initiate the search immediately. Though it didn't matter if they initiated the search at this point. It didn't matter if they initiated the search at 3 or 3 o'clock in the morning. They were already dead. They probably died going down, not coming back up, because the so-called implosion sound was heard early in the morning, or around the time they were going down. They were descending, rather, sorry. So again, guys, this is not a conspiracy theory. They're not trying to fucking, put one over on us. This was a fucking horrendous accident due to arrogance and being cheap and greedy. This is why this happened. The Navy, learning about this, hearing about this sound, keep in mind, guys, this is supposedly a top secret unit that listens to all kinds of shit that goes on in the ocean. So again, they got to the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard said, all right, we still got to do what we got to do. That's the Coast Guard's job, to look for people and look for shit like this, guys, until a certain amount of days go by and then they can't do it anymore. They got eyes on the debris. Now they're gonna see if they can find the main hull itself. All right, guys. Anyway, this is the Angry Prepper. Thank you for watching the Angry Truth channel, and I will see you guys in the next video.